Alright, let's practice some questions here. Listen to me and repeat after me. Then you'll have the opportunity to grab a partner and practice with him or her. Question 1. How old were you when you got your first pet? How old were you when you got your first pet? How old were you when you got your first pet? I was 6 years old. How old were you when you got your first pet? Oh, cute! What was his or her name? What was his or her name? Thank you! Question 2. When did you meet your first boyfriend or girlfriend? When did you meet your first boyfriend? When did you meet your first girlfriend? Alright, I met my first boyfriend when I was 14 years old. What about you? Really? Do you like him? Do you like her? Well, yes, I did. What about you? Do you like him? Do you like her? Okay, next question. When did you have your first kiss? When did you have your first kiss? Oh my god, my first kiss? When I was 15 maybe? So when did you have your first kiss? Were your parents pleased? Were your parents pleased? Well, no, they weren't, of course. Alright, question 4. How old were you when you bought your first online product? How old were you when you bought your first online product? Oh, I was 20 years old, I can say. How old were you when you bought your first online product? Really? What was it? How did you pay? What was it? How did you pay? In my case, it was a book, and well, I paid using my credit card. Yes. Alright, question 5. How old were you when you learned to ride your first bike? How old were you when you learned to ride your first bike? Okay, I was 6 or 7 years old, maybe. Yeah. How old were you when you learned to ride your first bike? Oh, what color was it? Who helped you? What color was it? Who helped you? Okay, it was black, yes. And yeah, a friend of mine helped me. Alright. Question 6. When did you go on your first trip alone? When did you go on your first trip alone? Well, I was 16 years old. Yes. When did you go on your first trip alone? Were you afraid? Were you afraid? Well, yes, I was. Were you afraid? Alright. And the last question, listen to me. When did you take your first driving lesson? When did you take your first driving lesson? Well, I took my first driving lesson when I was 14 years old. Yeah. So when did you take your first driving lesson? Oh, really? Did you have a good time? Did you have a good time? Well, yes, I did. What about you? Did you have a good time? Okay, awesome. Now, one more time. Come on, I'll ask you the question so you'll have the opportunity to answer them. Alright, question 1. How old were you when you got your first pet? How old were you when you got your first pet? What was his name? What was her name? When did you meet your first boyfriend? When did you meet your first girlfriend? Did you like him? Did you like her? When did you have your first kiss? When did you have your first kiss? Were your parents pleased? Were your parents pleased? How old were you when you bought your first online product? How old were you when you bought your first online product? What was it? How'd you pay it? What was it? How'd you pay it? Thank you. How old were you when you learned to ride your first bike? How old were you when you learned to ride your first bike? What color was it? Who helped you? What color was it? Who helped you? Okay. When did you go on your first trip alone? When did you go on your first trip alone? Were you afraid? Were you afraid? Okay. When did you take your first driving lesson? When did you take your first driving lesson? Did you have a good time? Did you have a good time? Alright, thank you very much. Okay, now it's your turn. Come on, let's grab a partner and practice this question. There you go.